MLRA 97 is located in southwestern Michigan and northwestern Indiana along Lake Michigan. It is distinguished almost exclusively by climatic factors rather than having any unique soil properties of its own. The lake-moderated climate allows for diverse and productive fruit agriculture. The historic vegetation on well-drained sites tended to be more mesophytic with a lower fire frequency than similar sites further inland. Current land uses in the area are diverse. They range from forested and disturbed areas to urban cropland pasture. Among the most dominant higher intensity land uses are annual row crops like corn and soybeans, and orchards and vineyards of apples, peaches, cherries, and grapes. This example, moist loamy drift plains, represents the broadest opportunities of land use. It is characteristically high in moisture, but not hydric. This site has high fertility due to loamy parent material with a higher base content. The state in transition model consists of states representing management and natural disturbance regimes, and phases within states, representing cover types such as plant communities and crop rotations. The arrows between the states are called transitions. Informally, transitions that restore the reference state are referred to as restorations. But this presupposes that only one state is desirable for management. Transition to different higher intensity land uses could also be called conversions. Ecological drivers of state and transition models can be categorized as singular events or processes, and generalized and grouped by outcome, such as whether they drive productivity versus reduce the living biomass of the site. They can also be further classified in terms of the mode of action, such as, for example, whether mortality is induced by too much water, anoxic conditions, or by too little water below the wilting point. To aid NRCS soil conservationists, a state and transition model may recommend possible pre-formulated agency strategies called conservation practices. A given set of ecological drivers in a state and transition model can sometimes be proxied by one or more practices. Some practices represent a group of drivers in combination, while others may stand for more than one alternative driver by similar response. Some practices, such as rare habitat restoration, are really contingent on what communities identified as the destination of action. But not all practices can be represented in a state and transition model, as they may be site-specific contingencies that are not an attribute of the ecosite or the plant community. Among these nationally listed practices, a subset that is most often employed in Michigan and the adjacent states covered by MLRA 97 are highlighted in yellow. Within the reference state, the beech maple forest can be naturally set back to an earlier successional phase by different intensities of disturbances, resulting in either ruderoforest phase or gap phase replacement of the same species. Alternatively, these can be outcomes of management actions like forest stand improvement with the dual goals of extracting an economically important resource and maintaining a socially desirable early successional habitat such as aspen. Transitions to restore native forests often involve some part of herbicide use to remove invasive species. Natural succession is often autonomous, not requiring any practices other than time. Conversions to other land uses may involve a combination of logging, plowing, and planting, but since these actions are driven by economic interest alone and not by conservation, they're not assigned the practices normally associated with these types of activities. Spontaneous conversion back to a wild state generally defaults to the semi-natural rather than the reference state. Among the cropland land uses, there is some energy need to convert between the annual cropland and an orchard of woody perennials. Therefore, they are treated as independent cropland states. Within the orchard state, the specific crop phase is apples, which is often burdened with a high pest load, yet a need for pollinator insects. To mitigate this, a portion of the orchard could be set aside as a conservation feature where a managed set of native pollinator-friendly species can be maintained. If this area also maintains insect pest predators, then within the orchard phase, an alternative management option of reduced pesticide use is conceivable. Within the annual row crop state, the specific crop rotation phase is corn and soybeans, which is often subject to widespread soil erosion and nutrient runoff due to repeated plowing. To mitigate this, a portion of the crop field associated with convergent areas of slope could be set aside as grassy waterway to capture and treat and slow the runoff. Other measures within the crop field phase represented as alternative management option of reduced till could involve a combination of cover crops and nutrient management conservation practices.